All right. Hey, y'all. I am experimenting with new ways of interacting and us being together. And most of all, what I'm super excited about is that there are so many different ways that I can share with you and bring value to you. And I'm going to dive in this morning to astrology in general, a quick bit on that. Obviously, I'm doing this through Facebook Live, which, if you're there, I think that means we can interact. I'm not totally sure how Facebook Live works. In any case, I will also be posting it into our group, this video, because part of what this video is an introduction to what astrology is and how it can be useful for us, and also something specific about what's happening right now astrologically. And this is just one of the ways that I can be of value to you. Now, first thing, let's step back to astrology, because I don't know, you may know nothing about astrology. And it's a funny thing about astrology, fascinating, is that it's one of the areas where most people in the world know almost nothing about it, yet have very strong opinions either for or against it. And I certainly fell into that category when I was a kid. I just thought how ridiculous that you're not going to be able to divide all of humanity into 12 categories and have that be applicable. And what we see for the most part in newspapers based on sun sign astrology, which is just one tiny bit of astrology, is way overgeneralized and useless to the point of maybe actually harmful. And I'm a strong advocate of not going into, hey, it's a little bit of city life this morning for you here. I like doing these videos for you outside. It gives more of a, I don't know, a reality connection where when I'm in my office I feel just a little isolated. Anyway, closed in. I'll try some of those too. I'm experimenting. And by the way, did I mention in this experimentation and all throughout, especially when we're small at the beginning of this Sangha, I would love to hear from you what is most useful. And sometimes that means what's most challenging. What are you struggling with? Like, just really from your heart. And we're going to go deeper together soon. We'll have our first live call together. And then after that, I'm going to raise the standards a little bit for how we relate to each other. All right. I was one of those people that thought, astrology is bunk. No way, not really interesting, not useful, until I was in my mid-20s and I started reading a column. It was in the Advocate. I was in Northampton, Massachusetts, and every week I would read this column, and it was like, there's something to this. It's connecting to my life. And then finally it got to the point where it was like, okay, something's going on here. I want to learn more. And I paid for an astrology reading for myself. And it was like the most amateur astrology reading you could imagine. I paid, I think, $25, and this very sweet young woman, what she did is wrote out 25 pages of notes, basically little pieces she copied from books. That was pre-internet. And still, when I got that back, I was like, wow, there is something to this. And from that moment on, right up until now, I've been very devoted to learning about it. And the way I did that first was for myself. I started getting more and more readings because, as you know, svadhyaya, self-understanding, is such a key part of awakening of a vibrant life. And then I used that as a way to learn about astrology in general, and I read books, and then I took courses, and then I got more readings, and then, eventually I started giving readings for people. And what's useful about astrology, whether you want to go that far, whether you want to get a reading, whether you've done readings, whether you want to study it or not, is astrology is a great way to understand not just people, not just ourselves, but events and situations and energetics. One way of looking at it is astrology shows us 12 different archetypes that make up a circle of energetics on the planet. And it's not the only way, and it's one way. What I love about it, though, And some of you have got into this with me before, the Myers-Briggs personality sorter, and I love that. 16 types, really interesting stuff. If you haven't done it, I recommend that too. Yes, and I'm just like giving you everything right now. But you know what? This is going to keep going because I just love learning, and I love teaching and sharing, and I love that we get to come together and create our lives into masterpieces. And what I loved about Myers-Briggs was it helped me understand myself, and it helped me understand different people. I read the book Please Understand Me, and I saw, we're all just different, and it's okay. And we've got certain strengths and weaknesses. And 16 types. What I love about astrology is it's infinite. And when I look at a chart, I'll show you what I mean here. Let's see, how do I do this? When I look at a chart, I'll show you a better graphic of it later. I can send it to you. That's what's happening right now. That's pretty cool. I can just show you that. Right, that's a two-dimensional picture of the sky at this moment. And you can see in there are tons of little glyphs, little graphics. And you probably recognize some of those symbols. And that's a bit enough for now. What it is there's so much to see. And when you look at an astrological chart, there's the sun, yes, and then there's the moon, and then there's where do they fall in the houses, and what's the axis, and where's Mercury and Venus. There's so much. Literally, astrologers talk about it this way. When you look at a chart, it's like there are maybe 500 different points. And what we do as astrologers, and what goes beyond what that woman first did, who did my reading, of copying out these little pieces. The sun is in the sign of Cancer, and that means this, and the moon and the sun are in a square position, and that means this. That's good, and you can do that with the internet. You can learn lots of cool stuff. What an astrologer does, though, is synthesizes and integrates that. And what's beautiful about it is we humans, all creatures, humans especially though, are complex. And we've got one part that says this, and one part that says this, and another part that says this. And what astrology is, and what life is figuring out a way to synthesize all of that, because there's always so much going on, in order to dance with life in a holistic way. Another way of saying it is astrology accounts for the complexity that we are. And I don't know any other self-understanding system tool that really does account for that. All right. So that's how I got into astrology, how it can be useful for you, and what I'm bringing you here specifically is, well, some of this insight that you can start to apply for yourself through some research, astro.com. You can get your chart for free there. And of course, if you're interested in doing working astrology with me, by being part of this group, you also get a great discount on it. You don't need to, though. You can learn about it on your own. And part of what I'm going to do here is bring you information on what's called transits or global events, or, in other words, what's happening now and how that is applicable and useful for you. So two things that we look at primarily with astrology that I do. There's lots of things you can look at. One is the imprint of who we are, meaning the moment we were born, because everything's connected. It's what I call your life story picture. Another is what's happening right now, and these are called transits. And you know about transits already, because that's a full moon is a transit, a new moon is a transit. A new moon means the sun and the moon are together in the sky, or at the same constellation point. We'll keep it simple for now. And we all know that a new moon and a full moon, well, if you don't know, do a little research, and you will know, have an effect on the environment, and we're part of the environment. Doesn't mean that they force us to do things, and this is a really important point with astrology. And why I think it gets a bad name sometimes is because people think of it as deterministic or boxing in. And, well, you know, I have the sun in Scorpio, and that means I'm like this. And no, it's never meant to be that way. What it is a way of understanding our tendencies or proclivities. They're describing energetics around us. And I love something that Paramahansa Yogananda said in Autobiography of a Yogi. He would challenge his astrologers, and he was very devoted to astrology, but he was also so devoted to the power of human will and spirit that he would say, what are the most challenging times for me? You know what, let's launch our next world tour on that date then, to show that our will is even more powerful than the influences in our environment. All right. Now, so what you can do with these astrological tidbits, updates, is say, these are the effects, these are the energetics. It's kind of like, well, hey, you know what, weather report, it's raining out. Well, I might want to bring an umbrella. It's not going to change the fact that it's raining, but hey. And there are certain indications, and that's what astrology really is it's a picturing. And it's a picturing of what's happening for all of us, as within, so without. And because we're all connected, we can look at the astrology, look at the planets and where they are and how they're relating to each other, and that gives us an indication of the energetics of what's going on now. I feel like I'm going very quickly here, so pardon me. I guess you can watch it again if you want, and we can have further discussions about it. I'd love to hear your questions here too. I guess I'm hurrying in part because I want to get you right up to today's update, and I've got some other things to share with you today. So today's update, I'll show you what I mean. Again, here's the chart, and without getting into a lot of technical, and this is what I do for myself almost every day, is I look and say, hey, what's going on right now? And when I look at it, one of the first things I see is, ooh, cool, there are some exciting things happening right now. And worth noting that astrological transits, they're always happening. There's always something going on. And some of them are more important, less important. Some of them are longer lasting. Some of them are very quick. And I'm only going to tell you about the ones that are significant. Like, I could spend hours every day looking at this and talking about it with you, and there's more exciting, interesting, valuable stuff for us to be into. So, and right now, where are we? It's March 12th, I think. Yes, March 12th, and there's some exciting stuff happening right now, so I'm going to give you a quick update. Really, this is... we're, I don't know, what is it, 5-6 days before the next new moon, which means we're in the end of a 29-day moon cycle, a completing phase of that. And right now, Jupiter and the Sun are just coming into what's called a trine alignment. Hey, you know what? All right, I'll challenge myself here to give you something in a different way, which is, I'll give you the cliff notes first, and then I'll tell you how I got to that, in case that's interesting to you. It is actually a time of extraordinary opportunity right now, and that's indicated by Jupiter, Sun, Uranus, Mars. Like, there's a lot of mobilized positive energy, a lot of energy for growth, and a lot of energy for breaking out of routines, ruts, for changing things right now. Which, hey, that's especially good news for us, because I know if you're here with me, you are devoted in some way to vibrant living. And that means you're breaking out of ruts all the time. That's what we need to be doing in our lives, waking up, saying, what now? What now? And one other piece that's worth mentioning is the influence of Saturn, Mercury, and Venus right now is something fairly strong too, and what that's indicating is, pardon me, Venus, love, beauty, harmony; Mercury, intellect, communication; Saturn, structure, order, discipline, work. The command or the invitation of that square relationship that's happening now. Mercury and Venus are over here. Saturn's in a square relationship to him. Saturn's saying, hey, it might be time to roll up your sleeves and do some work in the realm of communication, community, or even relationships. So, again, none of this is deterministic, and it can be useful to know about the energetics so you can make best use of them. That might mean that there are some challenges happening in communications. It might mean in technology there's some challenges. It might mean in relationship there are some apparently conflicting aims or challenges which is pointing us to say there is a breakthrough to be had if we do some work in that area. So yes, roll up the sleeves, get into it, and there might be some things to discover for us. Now, again, all of this is happening at the same time. So Mars and Uranus are at this beautiful trine relationship, which is like such vitality and energy and breakthrough and electrical energy and sudden change and development. That's more readily available to us. And the Sun and Jupiter saying, hey, grow, expand, learn, discover, broaden your horizons. Very exciting. And these transits, Sun, Mars, Uranus, that's been happening for 4 or 5 days already, and will continue for another 4 or 5 days strong, probably like a 10-day total. Venus and the Sun, that's more like a maybe 4-day total, and we're still ramping up into that, getting stronger. It'll pinnacle tomorrow. And the Saturn one with Venus and Mercury, that's probably about a 6-day total, and we're about square in the middle of that one right now. Time to take a breath. It is for me. I'm so excited. I'm going motor mouth with you, so I invite you to take one too. Astrology is a tool like many others, and what's happening globally is affecting all of us. What's happening for each of us individually is even more important, and it all counts. Let me know what questions you have. I hope this is useful. How it ever can be more useful, I want to know. And I'll see you soon. Thanks, y'all.